Hello, and good day, everyone. Thank you for joining this month's Connect with Control M. My name is Arthur Yates, and I'm a technical support analyst based in the Americas Control M support team. Today, I'll be talking about working with and troubleshooting Workload Change Manager 918. My panelists today is Octavio Vasquez and Jose Luna. Let me show you our agenda. I'll briefly discuss a change request lifecycle to help us understand the scenarios we will cover. Next, I'll demonstrate how a typical business user submits a change request, the common problems they may encounter, and how you can resolve them, followed by with a short recap. Finally, we will finish with the Q&A session. Now, before we get going though, we'll post the first poll question. So please take a second to answer. Which version of Control M are you using? Let's discuss the life cycle of a change request. To help us understand the scenarios, let's spend a minute discussing the change request life cycle. We have our business user, John. John makes changes to business job flows and submits them as requests to a Control M administrator or scheduler who can either process the change request or return them back to the business user. The scheduler or administrator can create site standards to standardize business processes which comply with your organization's policies. In your organization, the Control M administrator and scheduler may be the same person or two different roles. Now, before we jump to the next slide, let's see the results of our first poll. It looks like the majority of you are using Control M9. Great. Let's move on to handling common issues. So, I'm going to show you some common issues reported to us and how we'll work to resolve them. We're going to see this from the perspective of our business user, John, the scheduler, and administrator. We'll see what the administrator checks if request notifications are not functioning. When John is unable to check in the workflow, you'll understand why this happens. And when the scheduler has problems promoting a workflow between environments, you'll see what needs to be verified. Before we jump into the demo, we'll post the second poll question. So please take a second to answer. Are you using or do you have plans to use Workload Change Manager? Okay, let's switch over to our demo. Okay, in our first common scenario, we have our business user, John. John is logged into Workload Change Manager, otherwise known as WCM, and updating an existing workflow. John decides to submit a change request to the scheduler so the workflow can be reviewed and checked back into production. So here's John's workflow. John needs to make a change to a parameter. And I'm going to also put in a note so the scheduler can check in the request back into production. Okay, so I'm going to submit that. It's going to ask me if I want to confirm. I'll say yes. Now, to continue our scenario, John is in a meeting and expected the change request notification by email. John never received the email. After the meeting, John calls the scheduler to ask about the request. The scheduler informs John a reply was sent an hour ago. Let's go see why John never received the change request notification. Now, typically, when there's a problem with notifications being sent, we usually check the email parameters from the Enterprise Manager server. Here, I'm the administrator logged into Control M Configuration Manager, also known as CCM. I'm going to highlight the EM server and go to System Parameters. I'm going to go to the Advanced tab. Let me expand this for you guys. I'm going to filter by the parameter name, Email Server. I'm going to open up the parameter. I see a problem. This is the wrong value here. We decommissioned this mail server a few days ago. So I'm going to make the modification and call it mail.wcm.com with port 25. And just want to let you know that before changing this parameter, you want to verify with your email admin that you have the correct value of your email server. In this case, I know this is correct. So I'm going to hit Save. I notice here the refresh type is Recycle. But the next thing I need to check is under Workload Change Manager, under the General section, there's an email sender. I have to modify this parameter, WCM. Now I have to do Activate Changes. I'll get a message that says my GUI server and the name of my GUI server is okay. It's informational, so I'll just close that. Let's see. Now I'll close out the system parameters. I also have to recycle the web server and the GUI server. For this part of the demo, I'm not going to do that because it's already been done. Now the web server communicates with the GUI server. And since we made a parameter change, and if the processes aren't refreshed, well, when the GUI server receives communication from the web server, it won't understand the request. This is the reason why we recycle the components. As the administrator, I've called John and informed him he'll get his change request notifications from now on. Let's move on to another common issue. So, in our second common scenario, John is back into WCM and needs to make a change on a different existing folder in the workflow. He completes the change, tries to check in the folder, but receives a check-in conflicts message. Here's John's workflow. He needs to make a change to a parameter. And when he checks in, it's going to ask him to confirm. He'll check in. And here's the check-in conflicts message. I'll hover over. The message says, the folder is currently exclusively checked out by another workspace. From the web interface, this isn't something John can fix, so he's going to submit a change request to the scheduler with this conflict message. So I'm going to take my message. I'm going to hit first cancel and see conflicts. I'm going to go to the notes tab here and let my scheduler know what's happening. I'll hit add. Now I'm going to submit the request. It's going to ask me to confirm. I'll hit submit. Okay, here's how we can assist John. So I'm the scheduler. Part of my duties is checking for new change requests. I see a request from John, which I'll accept and take ownership. So this is the new request. It's in read-only mode, so I have to take ownership. What I notice here is that there's a note from the requester, and there's also a message about a conflict. The message means the folder SAP_util is locked by another user's workspace. The conflicted user here is Alice. So what I need to do is I'll go and check the planning domain. I'll go to the Tools tab and go to Workspaces. I see a few workspaces and one called SAP_util_WS. The owner's Alice. However, I'm going to open up that workspace, and yes, it's verified. This is the workspace that we need to work on here. So what I'll do is I can go back to the Workspace tab, and I can either take ownership. I'll highlight the workspace. I can take ownership or delete the workspace. But I've talked to Alice, and she says it's okay to take ownership. So we'll do that. It's going to ask me to confirm, and sure, I'll say yes. Okay, so in your environment, you want to verify with the workspace owner so they don't lose any unsaved work. Now, once I took ownership, I checked in the workspace, then returned the change request to John, whom received email notification from the first scenario we resolved. John is able to continue with his work. We're not doing that here because the scheduler has already completed this. Let's check another common issue. In our third common scenario, John wants to create a new exciting workflow. He defines the job parameters, but when John checks in the request, John receives a check-in failed message. So this is the workflow John's been working on. He's going to make an update to one of the parameters. Okay. Now, when John checks in, it's going to ask him to confirm. Let's see, this here is an informational message explaining why the check-in process can't be completed. It'll say permission denied and provide information about the folder and run as user CTM user 918. John is hoping the scheduler can assist again, so he's going to submit a change request to the scheduler along with the message. So I'm just going to copy and paste that message, and I'm going to put it in the notes section. And I'm going to click Add. Okay. Now, I'm going to go ahead and submit that to my scheduler. It's going to ask me to confirm. Okay, great. Let's give John the ability to create the new workflow. I'm the scheduler. Just got back from a meeting and want to check for any new change request. Okay, so I receive a new request from John. I'm going to open that. I'm going to take ownership. And what I notice is there's a note from John. And what the note is stating is that John isn't authorized to run the job as CTM user 918. So what I need to do is check the EM authorizations of John's account. So in this scenario, I'm the scheduler and administrator being the same person here. So I'm going to go to the CCM interface. I'm going to go to the Security tab, Authorizations, and I know John is part of a particular group, SAP_basic. I'm going to open that up, and then I'm going to go to the Run as Users tab. Ah, I see the problem. I remember telling John he can use my development environment for his workflow, but forgot to give him access to run the jobs because I've been busy. So what I need to do is add, I'm going to put an asterisk to give him access to all my control him servers, and the run as user is CTM user 918, and I'll give him access to all my agents here. It's a development environment. I'll hit OK. I'll hit OK again to confirm. Okay, and I'll close out the dialog box. Now, I'm going to return the workflow back to John and tell him he needs to log out and log back into WCM for changes to take effect. For this part of the demo, we won't show that because John will perform later. Let's explore the next common issue. Okay. So, in our fourth common scenario, John has been bragging about the new business workflow he created using WCM. The scheduler thinks the workflow is a great idea for business, so he wants to promote John's workflow from a development to a production environment. So here's the workflow that John's been working on. However, when the scheduler performs the promotion process, it shows an informational message. So when I highlight and do promote, the message I get is no matching rule definition found. So let's help the scheduler promote a workflow. So after reviewing the message, it means before I can promote the workflow between environments, I need to verify the promotion rules. You see, promotion rules need to comply with site standards of the target environment because promoted folders and jobs are validated based on assigned site standards before sent to the target environment. So what I need to do is check the tools domain, go to the promotion rules. I see here I have a few promotion rules. Now, based on my organization's naming convention, I know which promotion rule apply. And for this demo, we won't explain the rules as we have a separate webinar called Connect with Control M, Promoting Jobs Between Environments. So the rule that applies to this situation is called Test to Prod. I'm looking here and the folder name says it starts with capital SAP. So the rule is case sensitive. What I need to do is go back to the planning domain. The folder here, I'll open up this folder, SAP underscore WEA. I need to check it out. I'm greeted with a dialog box. I'll hit close. What I need to do is modify the folder name from lowercase SAP to capital SAP. Okay. I'm also greeted now with a confirmation message. It's just letting me know that I'm about to overwrite some information, but that's okay in this instance. I'll say yes. I'll check back in the workflow. It's going to ask me to confirm. I'll say yes. Okay, so that's done. Now, what I can do is go back to the Folders tab. I have to refresh my list. And I'm going to highlight the SAP underscore WEA folder. And when I click Promote, I'm now greeted with a promotion rule selection. So the rule is the Test to Prod. I'm going to hit OK. It's going to ask me for some information. I'll fill that out. And what I want to do is a promote and check-in as the promotion type. I'll hit OK. It's going to ask me to confirm. Sure. It's going through the promotion process, but I'm greeted with a informational message. It says a conflict type. the database already contains a folder with the same name. In this instance, that's okay because we want to overwrite this workflow. So the action I'm going to choose is overwrite, and I'm going to continue to check in. Okay, great. That's been done. Okay, so now the business can brag about John's new workflow. That concludes our scenario. Now let's go back to our presentation. So before we jump to the next slide, let's see the results of our second poll. And I show here, great, the majority of you do plan to use Workload Change Manager. Great. Okay, so here's our recap. We reviewed the life cycle of a change request. We helped our business user, John, resolve some common scenarios, such as change request notifications not being delivered, folders being locked by workspaces, workflow check-in fail due to authorization issues, and making sure we can promote our workflow from development to production by complying with promotion rules. I'd like to thank you very much for attending and taking the time out to attend this webinar. We hope the information provided is helpful. Please follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and our past webinars can be viewed on YouTube and iTunes. Today's webinar will be posted on YouTube in a couple of days. You can also use today's link to view it.